Beloved, hear me by the Spirit, because moments like this are not ordinary markers on a calendar. They are intersections where eternity leans into time, and men who are discerning enough recognize that God does not move randomly. There are days that carry weight, days pregnant with possibilities, days where heaven has already concluded a matter and is waiting for alignment on earth. December miracles are not about superstition, dates, or emotional excitement. They are about understanding that seasons respond to spiritual laws, and when those laws are engaged with accuracy, outcomes become inevitable. The God who sits above time yet works within time has ordained that certain transitions are gateways, and if you stand carelessly at a gate, you can watch your miracle pass you by while still confessing scriptures. Tonight, we are not spectators, we are participants in divine orchestration. You must understand that God is not moved by desperation, He is moved by alignment. Many people cry, fast, and pray sincerely, yet their results are inconsistent because sincerity is not a substitute for spiritual intelligence. Heaven responds to faith, but faith itself is a product of light. When light comes, faith rises naturally, and when faith rises, obedience becomes easy. December is not magical, but it is symbolic. It represents closure, review, and transition. And God, being a God of order, often chooses moments of transition to rewrite narratives, because endings carry the authority to redefine beginnings. This is why testimonies that look sudden to men are often the reward of silent alignments that took place over time. Miracles do not suspend laws, they introduce superior laws. If you only believe in miracles as interruptions of natural processes, you will live confused when God insists on training you in principles. The same God who opens the Red Sea teaches Israel how manna works. The same God who healed blind eyes taught his disciples how faith operates. So when we speak of miracles, we are not speaking of carelessness. We are speaking of the invasion of divine order into human chaos. There is a divine arrangement that can step into your story tonight and reorder everything that looked permanent. Permanence is an illusion when God is involved. What men call permanent is often just unchallenged. Many are waiting for God to move, not knowing that God is waiting for posture. Posture in the Spirit determines access. A man can be anointed and still be wrongly positioned. Position is not geography, it is alignment of heart, belief, and obedience. When your posture is correct, help can locate you without stress. There are people who will receive miracles not because they prayed the loudest, but because they aligned the fastest. Alignment is costly because it requires letting go of excuses, pride, and familiarity. God rarely invades spaces where he is treated casually. Reverence is not fear, it is recognition. Hear this carefully. Delay is not always denial, but prolonged delay often reveals missing alignment. God is too faithful to lie and too loving to ignore you, but he is also too wise to empower disorder. When he delays, he is often protecting you from receiving something you cannot yet sustain. There are blessings that can destroy you if they arrive prematurely. So when God withholds, it is not always punishment. Sometimes it is mercy dressed as silence. But tonight, by the mercy of God, there is an acceleration available to those who have learned obedience in the waiting. You must know that miracles respond to hunger, but hunger must be disciplined. There is a difference between appetite and hunger. Appetite is emotional, hunger is intentional. Appetite reacts when it sees food. Hunger prepares before food appears. Those who walk in consistent results are those who prepared for what they were praying for. When preparation meets opportunity, men call it luck. When preparation meets divine timing, men call it a miracle. God is raising a people who will no longer beg for outcomes they have refused to prepare for. Preparation is faith in action. There are people here whose greatest warfare has not been with demons, but with discouragement. Discouragement is one of the most subtle weapons of the enemy because it convinces you to agree with delay as your identity, Once delay becomes your identity, hope begins to die quietly, but hope is a powerful spiritual force. Hope is not optimism. Hope is expectation anchored in the character of God. When hope is alive, endurance becomes possible, and endurance is proof that faith is still breathing. You are not weak because you are tired, you are human. But you become vulnerable when you allow tiredness to rewrite your theology. God is saying to someone tonight that your tears were not wasted. There is a record in heaven of every sigh you thought was unnoticed. Heaven keeps books, and one of those books records endurance. Men celebrate visible victories, but heaven celebrates unseen faithfulness. There are rewards that are not given because of public success, but because of private consistency. Some of you are about to receive answers that are older than your current prayer points, because God remembers what you have forgotten you asked for. He is faithful even when your faith fluctuated. Understand this mystery. God often answers prayers in layers. The first layer is alignment, the second is preparation, the third is manifestation. Many shout when alignment happens, thinking manifestation has come, then they grow offended when results delay. If you learn to discern seasons, you will not abort what God is building. Impatience has aborted more destinies than witchcraft. Witchcraft can be resisted, but impatience often disguises itself as zeal. Zeal without knowledge will always produce casualties. There is a call tonight to release control. Control is often a sign of fear masked as responsibility. When you trust God, you relinquish the need to manipulate outcomes. Manipulation is proof that trust has not matured. God cannot partner with manipulation because it replaces faith with anxiety. When you let go, you are not being careless. You are declaring that God's wisdom exceeds your strategy. And this surrender is not passive. It is an active choice to obey even when understanding is incomplete. Miracles flow through channels. God uses men, systems, ideas, and instructions. Pride blocks channels. Familiarity dulls discernment. Offense poisons vessels. If you want to walk in sustained miracles, you must guard your heart aggressively. A polluted heart can receive prophecy and still miss manifestation. The purity of your heart determines the clarity of your perception. When perception is clear, obedience becomes accurate. Accuracy in obedience is what shortens journeys. There is someone whose miracle is tied to forgiveness. Forgiveness is not a favor to the offender. It is freedom for the offended. Unforgiveness anchors you to the past while you are praying for the future. God will not drag you into tomorrow while your soul is still living yesterday. Release is not forgetting. Release is trusting God with justice. Vengeance belongs to God not because he is emotional, but because he is accurate. When you let God handle justice, you free your hands to receive mercy. Faith must be spoken, but words without conviction are noise. Confession works when it flows from revelation, not panic. Speak what you believe, not what you wish. Belief is strengthened by truth, not repetition. If all you do is repeat words without renewing your mind, you will grow frustrated with confessions that seem ineffective. Light is the fuel of faith. Seek light, and your confessions will carry authority. There is a prophetic atmosphere tonight that is rewriting limitations. Limits are agreements you did not know you signed. Some of those agreements came from culture, family patterns, or past failures. But the blood of Jesus does not only cleanse sin, it breaks covenants. When a covenant is broken, patterns lose legal authority. This is why some breakthroughs feel emotional. It is not the money or the healing. It is the relief of knowing that a cycle has been broken. Do not despise small beginnings. God often hides greatness in simplicity to test stewardship. What you dishonor cannot increase. Honor attracts increase because it recognizes value before it is obvious. If you learn to honor instructions, relationships, and seasons, you will find that miracles begin to follow you effortlessly. Effortless does not mean cheap. It means that grace is now carrying what effort once struggled with. Prayer tonight is not about volume, it is about agreement. When heaven and earth agree, nothing stands in between. Agreement requires submission, and submission requires humility. Humility is not weakness, it is strength under divine authority. God resists pride not because he hates people, but because pride blocks his help. When you humble yourself, you create space for grace, and grace is not just unmerited favor, it is divine enablement to become what you could not become on your own. Some of you will walk out of this moment with clarity rather than cash, direction rather than deliverance, instructions rather than instant results. Do not despise clarity. Clarity is often the greatest miracle because it saves years of wasted effort. When God gives direction, he has already solved the problem. Obedience to direction is what converts revelation into results. I sense strongly that there are doors opening that will require courage to walk through. Familiar pain often feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. Freedom demands responsibility. Responsibility demands growth. Growth demands change. Many pray for change but resist growth. Tonight, the grace to grow is being released. Growth is uncomfortable, but stagnation is deadly. As this moment unfolds, be sensitive. God does not always shout. Sometimes he whispers. The whisper is not weak, it is intimate. Those who are too noisy internally will miss subtle instructions that carry massive outcomes. Still your heart, align your expectations, release your fears. What God is doing is bigger than what you asked for, but it will require you to trust him beyond what you understand. And as faith rises in your heart, as light floods your mind, as obedience forms quietly within you, there is a divine movement already in motion, arranging helpers, correcting errors, shifting timelines, and rewriting narratives in ways that will soon make sense. Because when God steps into a story, he does not rush, he perfects, and the perfection often begins with an instruction that seems simple, almost ordinary, yet carries within it the power to unlock doors you have knocked on for years. Doors that are now responding not to effort but to alignment, and as you stand here, listening, discerning, yielding, something within the realm of the Spirit is responding, because faith has found expression. And when faith finds expression, heaven listens, and when heaven listens, earth must respond, and the response does not always come as noise or spectacle, but as a quiet shift within, a knowing that something irreversible has begun, a knowing that the story cannot remain the same, a knowing that this moment has marked you, and that what follows will unfold layer by layer, step by step, instruction by instruction, until what was once prayed for becomes what is now stewarded, and what was once hoped for becomes what is now walked in, because the God who began this work is faithful to continue it. And even now, as you remain open, attentive, and surrendered, there is more he is saying, more he is arranging, more he is releasing, and it begins with the next response of your heart, the next act of obedience, the next decision to trust him even when the full picture is not yet visible, because faith does not wait for sight. Faith creates sight, and as that truth settles deeply within you, you will begin to perceive that this day is not ending, it is opening, and what opens next is connected to how well you listen now, how deeply you yield now, and how completely you allow God to finish what he has started within you. Even as the stirring continues and the atmosphere remains charged with expectancy, calling you not to rush away, but to remain positioned, because positioning determines access, and access determines manifestation, and manifestation follows alignment, and alignment is happening even now as your heart stays open to receive what God is still unfolding in this sacred moment. And in this posture of expectancy, you must learn the discipline of staying when your flesh wants to move. Many miss divine moments not because God left, but because impatience pulled them away too quickly. There are instructions that only come after you have proven that you can stay still without becoming anxious. Stillness is not inactivity, it is controlled focus. When your spirit is settled, you can hear God with clarity. Anxiety creates noise, and noise distorts signals. Tonight, God is silencing internal storms so that external directions can become audible. You see, the spirit realm responds to authority, not excitement. Excitement fades, but authority remains. Authority is built through obedience over time. This is why some people can speak softly and mountains move, while others shout and nothing shifts. It is not volume that moves God, it is alignment with His will. When your will submits to His will, your words carry His backing. And when God backs a word, circumstances have no choice but to comply, even if compliance takes time to manifest physically. Do not misunderstand timing. Timing is not delay, timing is precision. God is never late, but He is rarely early. He arrives at the moment where His glory will be unmistakable. If He comes too early, you may attribute the outcome to yourself. If He comes too late, you may lose hope. So He comes exactly when your strength has ended and your trust is complete. That way, the testimony remains pure. Purity of testimony matters to God because testimonies are not just celebrations. They are teaching tools for generations. There are generational narratives being edited in this atmosphere. Some of you have carried burdens you did not create. Patterns that began before you were born have tried to dictate your outcomes. But generational patterns submit to generational authority, and when a man rises with light, he becomes a gatekeeper for those who come after him. Your obedience is not just personal, it is prophetic. When you align, you create a pathway for others to follow. This is why the resistance has been strong. Resistance often confirms relevance. Strength in the kingdom is measured by submission, not dominance. Those who submit to God walk in authority over circumstances. Submission tunes your spirit to divine frequencies. When you are tuned correctly, instructions come with ease. Disobedience is not always rebellion. Sometimes it is distraction. Distraction pulls your focus away just enough to miss critical moments. Guard your focus fiercely. What you focus on grows. If you focus on fear, fear will gain territory. If you focus on God, confidence will rise without effort. There is a grace being released for emotional healing. Many are spiritually strong but emotionally wounded. Wounds distort interpretation. When wounded people hear silence, they interpret rejection. When healed people hear silence, they interpret process. Healing restores accurate interpretation. God is touching hearts tonight, not by force, but by truth. Truth heals gently but permanently. When truth enters the heart, lies lose their grip. And many of the struggles you have battled were sustained by lies you did not know you believed. Let me say this clearly, you are not behind. Comparison has lied to you. God does not measure progress by speed, but by accuracy. Some people arrived early, but arrived wrong. Others arrived later, but arrived prepared. Preparedness outlasts haste. If God slowed you down, it was not to punish you. It was to preserve you. Preservation is a miracle many do not recognize until years later. Some of the doors that did not open were traps disguised as opportunities. As God restores perspective, He also restores courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is obedience in the presence of fear. Fear will always attempt to negotiate with obedience. It will ask you to wait, to be safer, to be more certain. But faith rarely offers full certainty. It offers sufficient light for the next step. If God gave you the full picture, you might try to control the process, so He gives you steps, not maps. Each step releases grace for the next. You must also understand the ministry of silence. Silence is not God ignoring you, it is God training you. In silence, motives are purified. In silence, dependence is tested. In silence, you learn to value God for who He is, not just for what He does. Those who survive silence emerge with authority. Those who complain in silence often forfeit the weight that comes with endurance. Weight in the Spirit is not given cheaply. There is a shift from prayer as survival to prayer as partnership. Survival prayers cry for rescue. Partnership prayers seek alignment. God is inviting you into partnership where prayer becomes dialogue, not monologue. When prayer becomes dialogue, instructions replace complaints. Gratitude replaces anxiety. Confidence replaces fear. And suddenly, prayer is no longer exhausting. It becomes energizing. You leave prayer stronger than you entered because you were filled, not drained. Some of you are being repositioned relationally. Certain connections are ending not because they were evil, but because they were seasonal. Holding on to expired relationships can block future alignments. God connects by purpose, not just affection. When purpose shifts, connections must adjust. Release without bitterness, bless without resentment. What you release in peace leaves room for what God is sending in power. I sense a call to integrity. Integrity is alignment between private and public life. Power leaks where integrity is broken. God can anoint gifts, but he entrusts influence only to character. Character is what sustains miracles after they arrive. Many pray for increase but resist accountability. Accountability protects increase. When God increases you, he also increases the weight of responsibility. Grace empowers responsibility, but humility sustains grace. As faith continues to rise, remember that miracles often look like instructions. Build the ark, step into the water, go wash in the pool. None of these looked miraculous at first, but obedience turned them into testimonies. Do not despise practical instructions because you are expecting dramatic manifestations. God often hides power in simplicity so that pride has no place to boast. Your story is not random. The pain made you perceptive. The delay made you discerning. The waiting trained your ears. Nothing was wasted. Even your mistakes became classrooms when you submitted them to God. Redemption does not erase history, it repurposes it. What was meant to break you has become material for building others. This is how God works. He turns scars into credentials. As this divine momentum continues, guard what you receive. Revelation is fragile in careless hands. Write instructions down, act on them promptly. Delayed obedience weakens impact. Obedience delayed is obedience negotiated, and negotiation often ends in compromise. Decide tonight that when God speaks, your response will be swift. Speed in obedience attracts speed in manifestation. There is a calm assurance settling over many hearts now. That calm is not resignation, it is confidence. Confidence that God has taken responsibility for outcomes. When God takes responsibility, your role is to trust and obey. Anxiety lifts when responsibility is transferred. You were never designed to carry outcomes, only instructions. Outcomes belong to God. Stay sensitive. Stay humble, stay obedient. The unfolding will continue beyond this moment. What begins in the spirit will manifest in the natural, sometimes quietly, sometimes suddenly, but always purposefully. And as you remain yielded, you will notice changes not just around you, but within you. Your reactions will change before your circumstances do. Your peace will arrive before your breakthrough does. That peace is proof that something has already shifted. Beloved, as this moment draws its weight to a close, do not rush back into noise or familiarity. Carry what you have received with reverence and responsibility. Understand that God has not only spoken to you, he has entrusted you. What you do next matters more than what you felt here. Guard your heart, honor the instructions that were deposited, and walk with quiet confidence, knowing that heaven has taken note of your posture. Let your obedience speak louder than your expectations, and let your consistency prove the sincerity of your faith. The days ahead will reveal that this was not just an encounter, but a turning point, one where clarity replaced confusion, alignment replaced struggle, and trust replaced fear. Move forward without anxiety, without haste, and without doubt, because the God who met you here will go ahead of you, ordering steps, opening doors, correcting paths, and confirming his word in ways that will leave no question that what has begun by the Spirit will be sustained by his power. until what was once declared in faith becomes evident in your life as a living testimony of His faithfulness.